Good evening, everyone. And I'd like to thank all of you for attending the joint special board meeting with the Civic Center Development Committee, the CCDC, the February 22nd meeting at 6 p.m. This is an electronic meeting. And this meeting will be held in accordance with the electronic as authorized under the Open Meetings Act, Public Act 267 of 1976 as amended. Members of the public body and members of the public may participate electronically as hosted throughout the township and on our website. And with that, I will say, I would like to call the meeting to order at 6:01. And I would like to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God,
justice for all.
liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, everyone. Mr. Clerk, can you do a roll call of the Township Board, please? Mr. Clerk?
Supervisor Kowal.
Here.
Treasurer Roman.
Here.
Clerk Noble here. Trustee Ruggles.
here.
Trustee Smith.
Present, White Lake Township.
Ah, yes.
Trustee Voorhees.
President, White Lake Township.
Trustee Powell.
Oh, boy. Mike Powell here, White Lake Township.
I will amend mine. Rick Kowal here, White Lake Township.
Yeah.
And mine, Anthony Noble, White Lake Township Hall.
White Lake Township as well.
Same here, White Lake Township.
Okay. Sherry, can you do the roll call for the Civic Center Development Committee, please? And not like the rest of us, state where you're at.
JP Aarons,
Present, White Lake Township.
Mary Carlock, Jim Christopher,
Jim was here. Oh, there he is.
He's here. He's
Still here.
here in White Lake,
We can't hear you, Jim.
Yes, White Lake. Jim is in
Tony.
White Lake.
Tony Madifer,
Muted.
Present, White Lake Township.
Curtis Martin.
Here, White Lake Township.
Very good. Thank you, Sherry. I'm looking for a motion for the approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
I have a motion by Mr. Noble, seconded by Michael Powell. Mr. Clerk, roll call vote.
Supervisor Kowal.
Here. Yes.
Treasurer Roman.
Yes.
Clerk Noble, yes. Trustee Ruggles.
Yes.
Trustee Smith.
Yes.
Trustee Voorhees.
Yes.
Trustee Powell.
Yes.
Very good. Item number 5, public comment. This time, is anyone in the public? You can raise your hand. Be *9. Rob?
There are no members of the public phone calling in tonight.
Therefore, I shall close public comment. Moving on to new business. New business is the Civic Center presentation from Rivercats. I'd like to welcome you to White Lake Township. Thank you so much for taking an interest in our community. And you have before you the Township Board and the Civic Center Development Committee. The board, of course, is an elected body. The Civic Center Development Committee was a cross-section of community members, business people, just a snapshot of what happens in White Lake. And these folks have been extremely dedicated over the last year and a half. And I will tell you, they have not waned at all from their interest or their attendance. And they're very interested to see what your company has to reveal to us. We have Howard Cohen as our representative and from Chesapeake Group. And I am going to turn the meeting over to Howard. I am going to tell you that Howard has a format of which we are going to follow religiously. So Howard, I am going to turn it over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Rick. First,
let me just say that so that everything's clear and open, I've said it before. One of these people on this team, I happen to have known from a previous life, and that's Doug Smith, who is in my corner. I don't know whether you see he's in your corner on the screen or not. We worked together a number of years ago. The other thing is that I did find out in the last week or so, a mutual firm that both Rivercats and ourselves have worked with in the past and continue to work with, and that's Progressive A&E. I've worked with them off and on for, Jerry, 20 years, something like that. I don't even know. It's been a long time. Anyway, just wanted to make sure it's in the open and that there's nothing hidden or anything like that. Rivercats will have 45 minutes. As they were given the questions ahead of time that we had come up with from our last meeting. It's up to them as to how they respond to those questions. They have submitted something in writing, which will be disseminated on Thursday to everybody as well. But my understanding is from John that basically the presentation will reflect what they put in writing. At the end of 45 minutes, we'll have a half an hour to ask questions about the presentation. And then they'll have about 5 minutes to wrap everything up, and then we'll close our meeting out. So with that, John, Rob, I don't know how the screen works, but I'll turn it over to John.
Screen sharing is turned on, so if you want to share your screen, go ahead.
Okay, so I will be sharing mine. Is that correct?
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. All right. So while I have my group on here, real quick, I'm going to introduce everybody, but Doug and Kevin had already said hello, and for the purposes of just checking the mic, Elena, hi, first of all. Could you check?
Hello, everyone. I'm Elena Madison. I'm the Director of Projects from Projects for Public Spaces, and I'm thrilled to be here.
Thank you, Elena. And Andy, can you check your mic real quick?
Yeah, sure. Hi, John. This is Andy Fountain. I'm with Plant Moran Cressa. Work with Doug in the municipal capacity. Glad to be here. Thank you.
Great. All right. All right. Can everybody see?
Can everybody else mute their screens with the exception of those people who are going to speak?
Howard, you just tell me when to go.
Go, John, go.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
All right. Can you guys see this? Yeah, I'll talk quick. No, can you guys see this? Everyone okay?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you all. My name is John McGraw from Rivercats Development. Very excited to be here with you all. Thank you for taking the time this evening to hear us present our company and hopefully our joint and shared vision into White Lake and how we plan to do that together. So again, very grateful to be here. How we're going to start this presentation or work through this presentation is basically give you the what, why, how, and who, and then hopefully you'll be able to hear most of the questions that you guys inquired about. As Howard mentioned, we did put this in writing that is a little bit more comprehensive than just our dialogue here tonight. But if we do not hit on certain things tonight that you guys would like to readdress, we have questions and be happy to field those as we go after this presentation. So just to start off, what are we solving for? And we obviously had a lot of information, comprehensive information and significant work that's been put into a strategic plan for this township. And what this revolves around is a strong sense of place. And that is the foundation of which we are building upon here today. And how we're building upon that is through health, safety, and well-being, financial structure, and a mix of complementary uses. So these are the pillars of which our partnership will be formed or could be formed, I should say, rather. And through this partnership, we plan to concentrate on and could provide a host of different services and objectives. Within our partnership, within the foundation of place is potential lower fixed costs, risk transfer, whether that's performance, liability, or deferred maintenance, or even financially, an increased residual value of not just municipal infrastructure, but social infrastructure, where we're modernizing and we're providing hand rack provisions and performance-based operation, as well as improved availability and expeditious delivery from the private sector in hopes to hopefully provide and stimulate economic development, not just for the municipality in the immediate area, but really providing this strong core sense of place that you guys have already cultivated, and now we're trying to even enhance and make stronger. So, who we are. For the purposes of the presentation today, we've brought together 3 of our folks, but it's not limited to that. And I'll get into that a little bit later as well. But today here we have Rivercats Development, we have Plant Moran, Cressa, and we have Project for Public Spaces. So I will go through a little bit about Rivercats and explain our experience, our background, our values, what's important to us as people, really why we're here, the intriguing nature of this type of development or multiple developments or collection of developments, as well as let our partners in this or our teammates explain who they are and why they work so well with our group and our values, and in hopes to provide this holistic approach to development that we know is possible in places like White Lake. So I'm in an interesting position because my father's on the line, Kevin McGraw, and he'll be available afterwards for questions. You can ask him how I did even. But Kevin is the owner of our company, and Kevin brought me on. He started the company in 2008, brought me on in 2012. And prior to that, Kevin was was a litigator here in town for a large law firm, and he represented municipalities and set up their brownfield and land use policies and a host of other things. And he came in to represent them against developers, and that brings us to the foundation of our company and how we do things. And Kevin brought me in, and one of our first developments was, or one that I worked on was a project in Midland, which we'll touch on in a little bit. But our background and how I learned to talk to people in development is this idea where we, instead of walk into a municipality or even a university or healthcare system, we walk in and start a dialogue and find out how we can be a strategic partner, or where they have failed or where they see their city or company going into the future, and not trying to be as much of a turn and burn developer, but how do we become this trusted strategic partner in assisting these folks get where they're going. And a lot of that is just done through walking into the municipality and asking what we can do to help them. And from that, we've done a host of different projects, from residential to commercial to industrial, to mixed use. I'll get into the many forms that we've done over time, but we are a Michigan-based company. Right behind me is Trowbridge Road in East Lansing, Michigan, and we have developed in 7 different states. We have a strong financial background in terms of being able to provide capital for our own projects. And so if we are looking to do a project, we have financed all of our own developments ourselves with our own money. We come at the community and the municipality with a community base and engage the public approach. And we're able to hopefully solve the problems at hand or issues at hand or future issues at hand. And with this approach, starting off into residential and commercial and backing away from the 100-foot level to the 10,000-foot level, we really open up real estate in its meaning to a much broader version. And from that, we were able to understand that these municipalities have many more needs than just housing, whether that's market rate or affordable or workforce, but they also are looking at infrastructure, both vertically and horizontally, and water, sewer, power, fiber, the optimization of their facilities and the modernization of and the versatility of their facilities that they pay so much for, and get into a hole sometimes because they aren't able to keep up with deferred maintenance. And it's our goal to take that step back and say, hey, there's a different way of looking at this. And we come at it from a much different position. And with our national reach and even global in some circumstances, we're able to come up with some very creative solutions, so long as there's a willingness to commit to the vision that the city, or municipality, healthcare system, or university would have. So a little bit more about us and how we've, our values, our missions. Our mission statement is collaboration through complex problems to find environmentally friendly solutions that create financial and social value. And our vision of committing to socially minded development and exceptional craftsmanship is paramount to our team. Together, our diverse team shares a common vision of growing and learning to foster a creation of endless possibilities. And obviously, these are pre-crafted statements, but what we mean by them is we can't do this alone. We don't want to do it alone. We haven't come to White Lake to say, this is the development I want to do. Show me where I can do it, by which right, how fast we can get it up. This is a collaborative approach. We're not from White Lake, even though we're from Michigan and we have family members that live in White Lake. We don't live there. And even when we do, there's so much we don't know because we only have the lens that we have. So our goal is to sit down and have honest and frank discussions about where you are today, where you're going, and how we can help. And we can't do that by ourselves, and we don't want to. So that collaborative approach through these very complex issues is our playground. It's where we like to play. It's where we feel comfortable, and it's where we can do and provide hopefully the most benefit. So our values, the things that we're really good at through transparency and a genuineness or just being frank in discussion and trying and working together to solve common issues is our versatility through development. You know, we've almost all of our projects involve some sort of public-private partnership. Whether it's through brownfields or whether it's taking an issue and working backwards to a solution. We always look for where we're creating value, how we can collaborate. We're a solutions-based firm, and we focus a lot on our community and getting the community involved, because the community, the people, the folks that live here, that have set up families here that have been here for 5 to 100 years care about where they live, and we want to enhance it, not come in for profit motivation. And then finally, that one, where Rivercats, where the actual name came from, is conservation. The environment, the sustainability, and conservation are huge to our company. We're always looking at innovative ways of creating value through storable energy, through sustainable construction efforts and material, and providing a development that enhances the environment rather than hinders it. So within the residential realm, we have completed many different projects of all types in many different locations. We've done student housing, we've done market rate, we've done mixed income, done affordable and workforce. We've done these in urban areas, in rural areas, suburban areas, and a lot of them have environmental issues that are contaminated in downtown areas or even suburban areas that others don't typically like to do. But we take those complex issues and look at them as opportunities to enhance the city, enhance the once blighted area, and fix up a problem that has been happening for quite some time. And now I'm going to go into a few of our projects that we've done in the past. This, as we see, is called Jules on 3rd, downtown Boise, Idaho. This is slated to be completed roughly June of this year. And this is a public-private partnership between Rivercats Development and Ada County, which is the county in Boise. And Ada County has a courthouse across the street. And what's very unique about this project is we were having this was 4 years ago when this started, but we were having a hard time making this project pencil even downtown, but the land costs were so high and there was a labor shortage and a bunch of other reasons why we weren't able to get these numbers on point. And the courthouse across the street was busting at the seams and they needed more parking. And we came up with a solution where we provided a 4-story deck with 174 units on top, highly amenitized. It's a C shape that's focused towards the base of Bogus Basin in downtown Boise, and it's a beautiful project that it's a real testament of what can be accomplished with partnership. The Union Ames is a student housing project that has commercial as well as a boutique hotel, 22 rooms. I think it's 546 beds, I believe. It's highly amenitized downtown development, also a public-private partnership, whereas the city had some issues. It had a lot of contaminants, and we really took a blighted and contaminated area and turned it into just a wonderful project that created more walkability, sense of place, and a home for quite a lot of students across the street from Iowa State University. The YMCA at Cleveland was a very interesting project. I'm trying to show some of the different types of residential because these vary so much and we don't have a prototype. We really back into our projects with the municipalities in specific locations. This was a YMCA that was built in 1911. It's 9 stories. This was a marble terrace rooftop that we actually, at the time, we had to put a net around because there were some issues in downtown with marble roofs falling on cars, downtown Cleveland, which was an interesting issue to have and to try to solve. But either way, it was a wonderful project right downtown Cleveland with a significantly old building that had many issues that we had to learn a lot really quick. Here is a project that has apartments and townhomes in College Station, Texas at Texas A&M. You also see the nation's first lazy river for student housing, I guess you could say resort living. But the funny thing about this is at bottom corner, there's a TV screen there, and you think the Aggies would be watching football, but they really just wanted to watch The Bachelor. And they handed out roses and champagne. Just an interesting tidbit. But this has been a wonderful project for us. It's 1,061 beds, very successful. We've been filled up. We've owned it the entire time. We've owned it for, I think it was completed in 2010, which also shows we own a lot. We go into our projects to own them long-term. Being a family company, we do things a little bit different. We don't own all of the projects that we've developed since our inception, but we went into them assuming that we were. But every now and then someone comes along and asks to purchase them, and we go a different route. And here's another project that's going through entitlements right now. And I brought this one up because this one has unique 3- and 4-story as well as 3-story condos. So we have, this is downtown Grand Haven. This was a very blighted corner downtown with green space. It had a industrial building. It has PFAS and PFOS. We just got approved from the Michigan Strategic Fund to start this project. It has, I think it's 133 apartments and 13 condos. So there's a mix of housing in here to show some more versatility into what we've done in the past. And then into some of our commercial. Here is a project in Midland, downtown Midland, Michigan, East End at Midland. It's right across from the ball field. This is 228,000 square feet of commercial. The top 3 floors are Dow not headquarters, but it's one of their executive office and leadership headquarters. It has health use. It has ambulatory services. It has banks. It has restaurants, cafes, many different commercial uses, all within this 228,000 square feet. LEED silver, very well done building. A group out of Southfield, Newman Smith, helped us design it. We're very happy with it. In terms of commercial, retail, and office today, there was some questions about what are our opinions of where we are with COVID. And I think all of us would like to know that. We're at a very uncertain time. The retail that we own, actually in this center that I'm in, we have a grocery store, Fresh Time Farmers Market, 32,000 square feet. The total development of just retail here is roughly about 75,000 square feet. And we've had to take a very interesting approach, one of compassion, one of understanding, one of transparency. There's a lot of proud people that we have in small business in this center, but taking a approach of compassion first, asking how these folks are doing, asking if they need help, asking if they need time, if they need assistance, what's going on with their lives. A lot of these folks I watched hand install their own tile, paint their own walls, put in their own drywall, and it's been a hard road for them as well. But we believe that taking a compassionate approach and giving some of the tenants some assistance when needed has allowed us not to lose one tenant here. And actually, we haven't lost one tenant due to COVID. Now, we're more fortunate than others in that aspect because of this world being so uncertain. There's different market studies out there that kind of explain different scenarios of where the world is going, but none of us really know. None of us have that crystal ball. We'd like everything to kind of go back to some sort of normal, but we face a lot of obstacles. Part of our approach in White Lake is to take a very responsible phasing approach. We don't want to bring things that are going to sit vacant. We want things that are going to help create place and help create a thriving area for the township. And we're going to do that through significant, either whether it's partnerships or our relationships across the state, whether it's through brokerage, whether it's through co-development, whether it's through consultants, whether it's through just ourselves developing it. We have a lot of different means to really create something truly special, and we're excited to do so. And now I'd like to introduce Plant Moran Cressa. We've got Andy Fountain and Doug Smith, and I'd like you to kind of touch on a couple of the things that you'll see here. And Andy or Doug, just pass it back to me when you're ready, and I'll move on. Andy or Doug?
Got it. Sorry. Find the unmute. Thanks, John. Appreciate it. So in brief, we are obviously part of Plant Moran, their real estate consulting practice. And we have done business with Rivercats as an accounting firm for dozens of years, and are obviously very comfortable with them. Our real estate consulting practice has just started doing some work with Rivercats, and we appreciate their approach, their transparency, and that's largely why we're here and as part of their team today. And what we bring to the table, what we think is important for you to understand, is I work largely with owners of real estate, ranging from sophisticated investors to public entities that are interested in taking real estate they own and optimizing it or better utilizing it. Andy, on the other hand, works largely with our public clients that also own real estate and want to build or rehabilitate that real estate. In doing these things, we have, over the course of the last probably 10 years, been involved in several public-private partnerships that are noteworthy. In the city of Royal Oak, the Royal Oak City Center, in Warren, underway right now, the Warren Town Center, then of course the Illich's project in downtown Detroit. And really our role has been multifaceted in each one of these projects. Obviously, we, like the accounting firm, play a fiduciary role for our clients. But most importantly, what we bring to the table is the ability to measure financial feasibility, model the economic impacts of a project, identify economic gaps that may prevent a project from moving forward, and propose solutions, economic solutions, using economic tools and resources that might be available to us to bridge economic gaps, to get otherwise basically drawing board projects up and off the drawing board and going vertical. And we have played a role on both the private developer side and in representing our municipal clients in facilitating these public-private partnerships, and brought that skill set to bear, and have had a successful track record in Michigan and several other locations in utilizing those services to again create an equitable solution for both the public and private sector, and most importantly, get a drawing board project up and operational. I'm going to let Andy speak a little bit to our experience in delivering sustainable design and health and safety and well-being. But I want to speak to the last bullet as well that John has pointed to here, the short and long-term benefits to the community. I mentioned in brief that a lot of what we do in these partnerships from my perspective is try to lay out for all the stakeholders in the project what the costs of the projects are, both short and long-term costs. And we do that through economic impact modeling and measuring the feasibility of the project and sitting down with everyone to make sure that they clearly understand what the trade-offs are, what the cost benefits are for different approaches to a project. With that, Andy, I'll turn it over to you to talk a little bit about what we bring to the table in terms of helping our clients assure that their projects are sustainable and healthy.
Sure. Thank you, Doug. Appreciate the introduction. Again, Andy Fountain with Plant Moran Cressa. As Doug had alluded, my role with the firm really centers around all things municipal, all things government. I run the government practice for the firm. But just speaking to this opportunity in particular, John had kind of led off with the concept that really we want to be partners with you. We can't do this alone, and that really lends to identifying and working through opportunities for not only sustainable design, but making sure that when you approach a project such as this, that it does address any health and safety concerns. And that necessarily, it doesn't have to be the obvious, but you can take it down a few levels and really understand. Do you have the adequate environment to facilitate, the business that your residents are coming to and from the facility on a daily basis. So you look at things such as, from a health and well-being perspective, we help municipalities find other partners, whether architects, engineers, construction managers, different professionals that help them to implement these opportunities that you identify. So that's looking at creating the right environment from an HVAC and control perspective. We work with those professionals to make sure that your goals are implemented into that project. And then we look at that from a cost benefit analysis as well. So maybe you have laundry list of different things that you'd like to consider, but really we work with you to understand how we can best prioritize those items, and then also make sure that you understand when you're getting involved in these projects, what's the return on that investment? What does that look like when we implement a daylighting strategy with an occupancy sensor and a sophisticated HVAC controls package? We help you to model that and understand, hey, if we're going to make this investment, what can we expect back in return? And with respect to sustainable design, we've worked with, John, you had mentioned, Newman Smith. We've worked with them on numerous occasions, as well with pretty much, the top 25 architects, engineers, construction managers in Southeast Michigan. And what we try to do is work with those groups to understand, again, how we can align with your goals. And that doesn't necessarily mean that you have to have a LEED certified building. What we really try to do is, again, identify what those priorities are for you and help to integrate those components into your design. So that it could be as simple as saying, we just want to have a bike rack out front, so that way people can come to and from, and that actually contributes to a sustainable concept when you're talking about a real estate or construction project. So those are a couple of things, how we work with these groups and partner with them to make sure that we implement, your strategy, your goals into this project.
Thanks, Andy. One more important thing I want to add in here from Plant Moran is they typically, and they have represented a lot of municipalities across the region. And that's important for our team, and it's important for our values. And I mean that in a way, to put it simply, we want to create a win-win-win for everyone involved. We don't want the tides to be turned or to be unfavorable for one and supremely favorable for another, or where one team hits a grand slam, I guess. We all want to hit a stand-up double, baseball analogy. And Plant Moran, in working with municipalities, understand what those look like. And it provides an even playing field where they can provide the representation on both sides and really provide a strong product, and know the city, or the township rather, will know that they're getting a good deal with a strong partnership, which might not have been even possible without. So moving on to the next, I'm looking forward to introduce you to Project for Public Spaces, and we will discuss, I will let Elena actually discuss their company, as well as placemaking, which is very important to this project, the surrounding area, and the community. So Elena, the floor is yours. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you, John. And good evening again, everybody. Thanks for having me. I represent Project for Public Spaces. And as our name suggests, we're all about working in public space. We're a nonprofit planning, design, and educational organization. And we have been around as an organization since 1975. So we've worked in a lot of communities. And some of you may be familiar with our work in Michigan, and specifically in downtown Detroit. The previous slide actually had a view of downtown Detroit. We've worked for many years with the Downtown Detroit Partnership, later on with Quicken Loans, with Rock Ventures. In 2012, 2013, we actually developed a placemaking vision for downtown Detroit, which was a higher level plan focused on the public spaces and the public uses of a whole string of buildings and public spaces and streets and sidewalks. So our role here in this team is to kind of bring this public aspect. As planners and designers, we have spent many years on the planning side, but most recently, I would say the last 15 years, we've been actually very involved in implementation, and we've brought many projects to completion, not just through design, but working hand in hand to implement improvements in public space. Again, while we're still sitting on this slide, you may know the little corner of Campus Martius with the beach. That is actually an initiative that we designed. We brought a funder, Southwest Airlines, to actually support the initiative. It was supposed to be a temporary 1 season, well, 2 seasons implementation, and it's now in its 6th year, and it's very popular, and it changes every season. There's something new. And we usually go back and we partner with the Downtown Detroit Partnership on kind of refreshing the amenities, reviewing what is working and what is not. So that is very much part of our culture and our strategy and our approach. And as you see on the map, we've worked everywhere in the United States, and we've done a lot of international work, just to give you a sense that we have a pretty good grasp of what is the most cutting edge and most relevant in public spaces and just the public realm and the development of the public realm. If we can go to the next slide, John. We work in transforming public spaces, but we're also engaged in a massive building movement building with a number of partners in Michigan. The Michigan Municipal League has been very excited about embracing placemaking. We have other national and international partners. And I know from the questions the township had sent to John and his team, there were some questions about working with people of different ages and making the space and the public amenities friendly for potentially seniors. And we actually have a partnership with AARP, and we have an upcoming webinar in March talking about how to make public spaces and the public realm more inviting for people who are aging. We also have a great partnership with the National Main Street Center. We probably are familiar with them. And again, related to your questions earlier, just earlier this year, I was part of a panel speaking about winter cities and all the activities that are possible and could be implemented to make a public space, a park, a street, a plaza, even a street corner, a business, engaging and active in the cold months and in winter. So we have a lot of these experiences and a lot of knowledge, and we're bringing this to the team, and we're very excited to really join a team that's focused on place, because we believe that great places bring tremendous benefits to communities, and we hope we can make that happen with your community. If we can go to the next slide.
Just to let you know, you have 9 minutes left for the presentation.
All right, I will speak a little faster. But back to the benefits of great places, and just for your kind of understanding, when we talk about place, we don't necessarily mean just public spaces. It's not just your parks, your sidewalks, your streets, but we're also thinking of the community places that actually engage people and are part of your public realm. So your library, your city hall, the areas that are actually open to the public and are part of what people identify as a public and a shared resource. So we have a lot of experience with all of these spaces, and we have a huge interest in bringing all of those benefits to your community, whether it's through building social resiliency and interaction, promoting health. Earlier, we did speak about health. We've actually done a number of studies, and we have a good experience with creating healthy places by focusing on walkability, on bikeability, by focusing on access to healthy and affordable food, by focusing on spaces that build social connections and promote interaction and thus actually improve mental health. And I think today with COVID, we have seen how much interest there is in all of these topics everywhere because we feel the need to be together as communities, and it's very hard to do. So if we can go to the next slide, John. What we bring to this team is also our expertise in placemaking. A few years back, we were one of the few organizations that ever used those words. Today, placemaking is kind of out there. We're very excited to see that. And we define placemaking as a collaborative process of people coming together to create the great public spaces at the heart of their community. So we hope that that is what we're going to bring to this team and to your community, a collaboration and a process of working together to actually jointly co-create the elements that will make the public realm, but also the rest of the development. If we can go to the next slide, please. So we start with the premise that the community is the expert. And by saying that, we don't mean that we're going to ask all of you, although you're welcome to come and design with us, but really we're going to ask as broad a sample or a group of the community to speak with us. We want to listen, we want to observe, we want to understand what are the needs, what are the existing assets, the existing destinations, and how what we're trying to create with the new Civic Center can actually support what you already have in the community. So it's very much a system and a network approach. We look to link and we look to listen and to learn. And we have an array of tools and a process for engaging with the community. And our goal in that engagement, if we can go to the next slide, is to create the place. So not every space is a place. And sometimes it's the little things that can turn a space into a place, from like a comfortable place to sit, or shade versus sun, or pedestrian access versus just auto access. So all these little elements help create the place. And they're all part of the thinking, both planning and design thinking that we bring to this team and we hope to bring to your project. Our ultimate goal, if we go to the next slide, is to, with you, jointly develop a vision for the new Civic Center, but also for how the public spaces can anchor the physical buildings and the development as a whole. So I think, again, the Rivercats team is very forward-looking, and we're excited to be part of this team because usually the development process goes the other way. The buildings are designed and then there is some leftover space and it needs to become a park or a plaza. So we hope by starting this conversation early on to kind of set the stage and build the bones for this development through the public space and the public realm. Next, please. I'm not going to be the first one to say it. You can't do it alone. So I think it's very on point that we actually make a good team. We've been talking about how we need to work together, but this is part of one of our key principles at Project for Public Spaces. So we need to collaborate. We want to collaborate. We have a long history of collaboration, and we're excited to do this here. Next, please. And we want to program for diversity. We want to program for different ages. We want to program for winter versus summer. Again, there was a question from the township about 365-day use. That is something that we feel very strongly about, and we have a lot of experience developing those plans. And we believe that, again, working collaboratively and connecting the destinations and the assets in the new development to what you already have in the township is going to be key to bringing the whole development and the entire township to walkability, bikeability 365 days a year. And last but not least, we understand very well that you're never finished. And by that, I mean that the thinking of how the public realm is going to be managed, it's going to be maintained, it's going to be programmed on the short and long term as part, again, of the approach that we take to the development of vibrant community spaces. So maintenance has to be part of it, and we want to think of it from the get-go, and we're excited that our partners, again, are interested in public-private partnerships. That's one of the tools that we have to assure that the park, the plaza, the street, the civic center as a whole is maintained, lively, and vibrant after it's being implemented and in the ground.
You have 2 minutes left.
Thank you. I'm done.
No, period.
Thanks, Elena. All right, since we have 2 minutes left, we have a couple more things I wanted to touch on. And if we have time, Kevin can jump in. Depending on the willingness of our partners in the municipality, township, and local stakeholders, there are many different partnerships we can also look to form within universities, local universities, or healthcare systems to provide education and other health initiatives throughout the township. We can also work with local and regional utilities in terms of renewable and storable energy creation and maybe even possible renewables and revenue creation. Our plan for White Lake Township is besides the public-private benefits of access to capital, expedited design, procurement, and delivery, and identification and mitigation of risks for the township. We'd also be looking at doing some mix of responsibly dense housing, multifamily and townhomes, and we can do that in many different forms. We would all plan on doing that with partnership with the township. And finally, our last thing here is our obstacles. And Kevin, I'll let you jump in after when we have some questions. But our largest obstacle here, in our opinion, typically stands to be the willingness to commit to the vision politically, socially, and financially. And if we're able to do that, then we really can solve some problems together. Once we, Rivercats, our team, our partners can get inside the room with you folks and discuss all the issues, we can come up with some fantastic solutions from a partnership and holistic approach. And with that, I've kind of run out of time, but I want to thank the team for presenting. I want to thank you all for listening, and I'd like to open this up to questions. So
okay, let me just say, can we clear the screen, I guess?
Yes.
The questions should be oriented towards the presentation that you just heard. I have some questions specifically related to some of the questions that we submitted and some additional information that I'd like on those. But anybody feel free to go first, but we'll take one at a time. And you get one question, and unless nobody has any questions. Anybody want to start? You can all turn your speakers, your mute off. Rick?
Yes, I have a question. One of your projects that I saw, Peerless Flats, how was that conceived? And what was the response from people when they actually saw the presentation that you came up with?
I'll do that. This is Kevin McGraw. I worked on that for 3.5 years. It started out as an affordable workforce thing with Michigan MEDC wanted to do a pilot program. And then they stopped playing nice together, so we had to switch it to market. And did total just MEDC with no commercial because it's downtown. And we went through the planning commission several different times with several different iterations. We held town meetings, rented out a library and went through the whole process with everybody. But the Downtown Development Authority was our biggest cheerleader because they needed full-time residents downtown. This property was vacant for over 30 years, has PFAS going into the Grand River and the Great Lakes. And 2 weeks ago, the Michigan Strategic Fund granted us a $4.75 million loan to get this done. And looked up our pro forma very well and dissected it. And that took a long time. And even in this environment with COVID, we still were at the top of their list because of what's happening with the PFAS. And actually, the one we're doing in Kalamazoo, ironically, is also PFAS. But
Mike Roman?
Yeah, thanks. Had a question for Andy. Andy, you're talking about cost and benefit, investment, return on investment. Wondering if you can give us an example of another municipality and talk to us a little bit about the cost and benefit to them, the investment and the return on investment to them. Hopefully some kind of an example that might relate to White Lake Township. And if you can do this in layman terms, we'd appreciate it.
Sure. From a, let me think of a good example here. So we're working with a couple of different groups right now. One, I won't mention the name, but somebody that's a sister community to White Lake. We've been working with them this is a addition renovation program to one of their existing facilities. And so, with project, there's usually a lot of, at the beginning, you're identifying multiple opportunities that you then bifurcate into wants and needs. And so what we did was we went through and looked at this specific example was a police station. And so we went through an iteration with this client where they had wanted to add a gun range to this facility. And so what we ended up doing was saying, okay, the cost of that gun range would be, I won't use the figures, I don't have them in front of me, but would be X. We then went around and looked at other options instead of constructing a gun range. I'm not sure if you're familiar, but there's typically a substantial cost involved in constructing a gun range. So what we did was we went to some of the other communities and said, what would it take for us to maybe work out a lease agreement? And so we ran the financials on here's what your cost would be to construct. Here's what your cost would look like if you entered into a lease or a partnership agreement. And then provided that information to that group, and they're actually in the middle of making a determination right now. So I hope that I know that I kept it kind of high level in layman's terms, but really what we try to do is understand what your needs are. If it's not financially feasible, we try to work with you to come up with either an alternative or maybe think outside the box of is there another partner out there in the marketplace that you could engage with that'll still allow you to accomplish what you're looking for, but maybe just in a different way.
Thank you.
Sure.
Any other hands? Okay, I got a couple questions for you. Some people on this committee, maybe the majority, envision housing that is quite at a density and is quite different than we might have in White Lake Township right now. Some of which, or many of which, your project's examples show the type of housing or something similar that would be at a denser level than what we have at the present time. Yet some people would say, well, it's not proven. Can you address that issue, John, or whoever?
When you say not proven, Howard, what do you mean?
Well, because it doesn't exist in White Lake at the present time. They're saying it doesn't, people aren't so certain that it can happen here.
So we're required to do market studies for financing. And so we do our own, we're pretty good at doing an informal one internally, just because we go through this so many times, we know what they're looking for. And so sometimes being the first one out is good. I mean, White Lake Township is a very good township, very high level township. You're going to command good rents. And so when you say dense in downtown Boise and dense in White Lake are two different things. And so we'd have to work together to figure out what you want and how you want it. We can explain to you what garden style, 3-story walk-ups with no elevators cost, and then what a 4-level, 5-level, 6-level with elevators cost, what a high-rise would cost, and then there's parking issues. And so the 3-story walk-up gives you more room for parking. A more dense development requires sometimes a parking structure of some kind, and we've built plenty of those, public and private. So it just depends on what you want, where you want it, and then we work with you, and we'll help steer you because we know what works and won't work. Some of it's very obvious won't work, but with economic incentives and other things, and having the ear of MEDC and MSF like we do, we can usually find out in the beginning what will work and what won't, and how much help we'll get from other third parties.
Okay. And this, to me, they're somewhat related, I guess, which really was the first question that were submitted. And I'd like perhaps an answer to that. I know one of the trustees would, because it came right out of their mouth. Okay. And that was, why did you take an interest in this project? What got you to this point?
Sure. I thought I mentioned it early on, but the master development role where there's multiple different uses was very intriguing to us. We have family members that live in White Lake from different ages. I think Kevin's brother Tom represented White Lake in a long time ago. But at the same time, we have some family members that have talked very fondly of the area. We're a Michigan-based company looking to really show the true value of tight-knit communities that have that value. Where, our initial intrigue was we know some people from there, and there's a master development role that has mixes of uses that we can help complement and bring in our team. Which has many different and takes many different forms, just was super intriguing. And it just sounds like such a fun project to work hand in hand with the municipality, with the township, and really create some long-term value.
John, so that leads me directly into, because you mentioned it. So you see yourself, which is great, as a master developer for the project. Yes. There is also substantial acreage nearby around, not that associated with the park, but maybe across the street, et cetera. What can you envision a role for your firm in this process moving forward once we take care of the core, or simultaneously with taking care of the core? How do you feel?
Kevin, you want to start?
Yeah, we've had lots of projects that we've bought up properties around it. And the reason we do that is because we're creating value and bringing value to the surrounding area, and it allows us to complete our vision, but it also allows us to take advantage of some of the value we created. And so in one project in Lake Jackson, Texas, we tied up 102 residential lots, which took us about 3 months. And so we're used to doing that. We're doing it now down in Nashville, actually, on some lots. And so we know that when we find a really good piece of property, we say, oh, it doesn't work. But then we look around it, and there's 6, 7 parcels around it, and we start knocking on doors. And I can tell you, with all the projects that we've done, Howard, we've never really bought a piece of property that was listed. We always knock on doors and hire local people that have good reputations that work with people. And like Johnny just demonstrated tonight, we associate ourselves with partners that make us look good, make the project work, and we have no qualms about doing that. But as a master developer, that's exactly what we do, is we bring in the people that can help us the best.
And it's hard to say exactly what's going to happen until we get in and start working with the municipality, because that land may skyrocket in price for some reason, and we no longer can afford it and to make it work. Or we need to make sure that what we're doing, no matter what, complements and is cohesive with the township. Not development at all cost. It is providing a solution to the township that people want to see, and that enhances the community, not allows us to increase a portfolio. That is not our core mission.
We might want to tie that property up too, Howard, sooner than later.
Okay, good answer. The other question that I have, based on the questions that were submitted to you, has to do with the retail component. Non-traditional, do you believe there's a way, based on your new partner that you brought into this thing, okay, since the qualifications were submitted, to do something that had retail or a commercial component that would provide for entrepreneurial activity, that would provide for that change every 3 months, 6 months, or whatever, so people would want to come back, and also provide some services to the residents who are going to live in this particular community?
So we've done, as we've mentioned in the presentation, we've done multiple forms of commercial. We've worked with different folks on trying to provide more versatile, even pop-up forms in communities. There's a company in Grand Rapids that does storage container units that can be outfitted at a relatively fair cost. And by putting a few of those together, you can create a nice looking structure that can be versatile for multiple users to come in and rent for months at a time, whether it's a coffee shop or a taco stand or something like that, where people can frequent. And then you put these in, create a public space. But really, when we talk about non-traditional, it's going to be, it's hard to do. It's hard to find the right mix of putting it together and finding the right tenants. But the collaboration with the township and the space for it, if that's available, I mean, typically what we're looking at is really expensive land costs. But if we're taking a place vision first, then we can kind of back into what this could look like and work on it together, which is really how this project is going to work best.
Mike Powell, I see you did you have a question?
I did. Thank you, Howard. First of all, I wanted to point out that this presentation went above and beyond the initial presentation of your written product. The team is extremely impressive, and I want to thank all of you for that. I quite frankly am in awe. I did have a question because I'm kind of in the business, and I don't really understand maybe how one of you might see the critical path. If you're selected, how would you see this packaging going, and how would you see the critical path going forward to the ultimate goal of having a downtown?
John, do you mind if I start?
I do not.
It's going to become ideally your commitment to what you want. And the biggest problem we always have in a situation like this is getting a municipal group to commit to the vision and commit to a timeline. And for example, if every decision we had to make had to have all these people on every call, this would take us 7 years. But if you have a steering committee that you trust, it's got one from council, one from planning commission, one from EDC, one from parks, one from neighborhoods. And I'm just making things up just to give you an example. That's very nimble and that can get on a call real quick and stuff like that. But right at the very beginning, the first thing we have to do, like Cressa just talked about, is you've got to come up with your list of priorities and what you want and how you want it. And that's what we work to do. And then it's our job as master developer to bring in the right GC, because we don't even know which one we'd bring in right now. And I got a feeling you're going to have two different ones, maybe 3 different ones, because you got one for municipal, you got one for the residential, you got one for other infrastructure and things like that. And it all depends also on how you're going to pay for this. And so we're going to have to help you get there. So when you have a list of priority, we also have to put a number on it. What's that going to cost from a high level? And how many square feet? And we can kind of do 20,000 feet, what that's going to cost. And then we've got to say, how do we pay for that? Because we can't design something we can't build. And so we look at how we do that with either economic incentives, bonds, nonprofit agency coming in and doing their own bonds and financing it for you. We've got the partners to do that nationally. Somebody to come in and look at your sewer and stormwater system, for example, and help you optimize that and not privatize it, but optimize it. And that way you still own it and control it, but you get money and funds from that to help pay for some of these public projects that you want to, or a parking system or other things. And there's other ways of doing that. And as a master developer with Cressa, that's our job, is to find you, not only help you get it down to a realistic list, laundry list of your items of what you want in order of importance and put numbers on them, but also help you find out how to afford them and whether you can afford them. And if you can't, then you got to start knocking things off. So every time we build a project, we call it value engineering, where we get the first sticker shock from the first bid. We go, oh my gosh, that's never going to work, because we know what the rents are. We know what all that is. And so we'd have to go through all that with you. And quite frankly, we'd have to pull you down that path with Cressa to help you make sure you understand how that's happening and everybody understands. And we might have some starts and stops. It's never easy. There's always obstacles, but that's one of the things we love to do. Once you're committed, we can get you there. It's just a matter of what it looks like at the end, based on your ability to not only commit, but to pay for it.
Maybe just one quick, and unfortunately,
Okay, Mike, you can ask another one. We got time.
my staff, my colleagues know that I could carry this thing for hours. But that being said, have you ever done a public-private partnership to where the community was looking for a township hall or a municipal building, and there is a lease payback agreement between you and the community?
We haven't. I know Cress has been involved in that. I was involved in that as a lawyer. It's not rocket science, but it does bring in other factors such as taxes, your exposure, your obligations, the exposure of whoever's holding the paper and the lease. And so it's doable. And that's Michael, that's only one of the things that you look at, but it's one you have to look at, because unless you're cash flush, and like in Boise, they were cash flush. They were willing to pay cash. We were willing to do it we give them a GMP, and we did it from soup to nuts. We helped design it, and we built it, and then we had weekly meetings, and they were in every meeting. And by the way, Howard, that'd be a great reference for you to call, is the Ada County representatives, to see how we did with that P3. And I appreciate you talked to Progressive as well, because they're a great group as well. You obviously know we use them, but it's an easy thing to do, but we just have to work together to do it.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Anybody else? Got your chance. Sean, as staff, you want to ask anything?
I'm just sitting quietly and taking it all in, but I will say that I appreciate that you guys are well-researched, thorough, sincere, and frank. You could tell us a bunch of things that are going to, make us perk up, but you seem to really be shooting straight with, right out in the open. That there's a lot of hurdles to still overcome, and that would be the case with any partnership. So I appreciate you being out front with all that, because there are things we want to hear, but more importantly, there are things we need to hear. And I think that we're getting that tonight. And so I do appreciate this. And I would share what Mike just said, which I think is that, your presentation was very thorough. And, I thought your original proposal to us in writing was really more of a snapshot of what you had done. It was really more tailored toward our community. It seemed like you knew our community a bit. You spent some time here or looking into us, which was, in my opinion, evident by what I saw from you. And I think you kind of took the next step tonight. So I definitely appreciate all your time and efforts, the whole group. Thank you.
Thank you, Sean. We certainly don't want to go down the road if you guys aren't committed, because that means we've wasted our time and money as well. And we'd rather work on something that we think is going to go forward. So if we're wasting our time, we'll give you names and references of people that might be better fit, but we certainly don't want to do that either. So.
Jim, did you raise your hand or? No?
Yeah, I did. I was just curious, what part of the project or how much of the project are you guys going to bankroll? Or would you, as a percentage?
It depends. My partner, somebody I used to represent legally, he's an ex-defense contractor, and we're very well heeled. We do our own financing, work with a lot of banks and other institutions, and actually Plant Moran helps us with a lot of that stuff. But it all depends. If it's a public building, we could actually own it. We can go that far, and we can lease it back. We can do it personally. I mean, we own the building that Dow Chemical's in, for example. That's an $80 million building. So whatever you need, we can do. Cressa is going to tell you what's in your best interest. Whether we want to own it or whether you should own it almost won't matter. It will matter what Cressa tells you is best for you guys. Because if we try to tell you something that's best for us and we don't care about you, that's not going to work by the time we get to the finish line. And so we want to figure that out right up front. And Doug and his team will be the ones that'll be in there saying, well, you could own it. These are the pros and cons. They could own it. These are the pros and cons. Or we could do a hybrid. These are the pros and cons. Doug, am I saying that correct?
Yeah, Kevin, absolutely. And to that point, that's the role we played in Royal Oak with their deliberation about their new city administration building. They went down the path of well, should we lease this from a developer or should we own it? And we just worked through the criteria with them, let them know what the what the positives and negatives of both were. Ultimately, they wanted to control the building, and they were concerned about having a landlord and the ramifications of a landlord, and a sizable structure. And so they opted and had the cash, fortunately, to go ahead and build it themselves. But they had an offer on the table, like the one Kevin mentioned, to have a private developer build the building and lease it back to them, which checks a lot of boxes with regards to a public entity and helps to obviously to stretch your cash a little further. So there is upside to that, and we can explore that. Certainly here.
I have a question to Kevin. If we did that lease, what's the structure of that? Is it a 20? Is it a 30? And what's the benefits be? I mean, is it a benefit doing I call it a dirt lease from 20 up to 20 years and or to 30 with us obtaining the building at the end of the lease?
It's usually 20 because our financing, even if it's amortized over 25, it's usually a 20-year lease that you need because, quite frankly, if you leave after 10 or 15 years, I own a municipal building that I can't really fill. And but I've been in situations and negotiated deals, Anthony, that we've allowed them to own it afterwards. And then in certain circumstances, we allow them the opportunity to buy it at a fair market value after a period of time. And so what we would do is we'd work with Doug and his team on what that would look like, because then they and us would go out and look at financing and we'd show you what the financing is. We actually have to be transparent and to be able to show you that, or it doesn't work. And so we can't really hide those cards from you because it doesn't work. The best way to we can't show the whole community, but we can show less than a majority, your finance team, so it doesn't get out there. But once we show it to you and you accept it, then it's public. Then you can vote on it in the public and everything else. But while we're negotiating, going through, we can show you what the different ideas are and how we do that and what the different costs are, because our costs change depending on what avenue you go down.
We've got 5 minutes left until John gets to wrap it up. Liz, you want to?
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin.
No problem.
Liz?
Thank you, Howard. I really don't have any questions. I want to thank you. It was an excellent presentation. You answered many of my questions that I submitted, and Howard, you touched upon one that didn't get answered. So, and they have answered it now. So I appreciate that. Just thank you for your time and effort and investment that you've put into White Lake. It's very much appreciated.
Thank you.
And I thank you all. So appreciate it.
Debbie, you usually have some comment.
Thank you, Howard. Well, again, I also thought it was an excellent presentation. I've been listening, and a couple of the questions I had have been answered. The one thing I was thinking about was the township owns the land. The buildable portion, and I know is not that large. And we do have a grand dream of creating a downtown. I know you must have really looked at this because you wouldn't be here. So I guess I don't really have a question. It's just, I guess you envision that we can get residential, the government buildings, and tie it all together with the library, with the plaza across the street, with the park. I guess you think that we can fit all of that in, plus commercial in there.
I believe we can put a project together for you that checks most of your boxes. But every time I try to build a certain building, I think I can build it for X. And then, like I said, I get sticker shock later and we have to, go a different avenue. So I can't make a promise until I know how many buildings, how many square feet, how we're paying for them, all that stuff. But I can tell you, if everybody's honest about going through the priority list, putting the numbers on them, and then negotiating through that, we can come up with something. You will definitely learn something. If we took a 3 to 4 month process, for example, at the end of the 4 months, you'd know a lot more than you do today. And you'd know whether or not, okay, we got to stop. This isn't working. This isn't what we thought. And we got to do something else. Or we have to do this. We know we have to go down this road. And every time you do that, every time that road gets a little bit more narrow, then pretty soon to be honest, the choices become obvious at the end. You're either going forward in this way or you're not going forward, in my opinion.
Tony, Kurt, Andrea, Scott, anybody else?
Howard, can I add one more thing to that?
Absolutely.
Debbie, just to add to that, one of the questions that we were asked is the oneness of this development. And it's a true strength of having a master developer to tie everything together. We have multiple partnerships, not just on this phone call, but all across the nation that can help us collectively with the township's vision to really tie this whole thing together. And at the very least, we can put together a comprehensive list of options and how we can do this. And we will present that as we go as well.
Okay.
Sure. I'll make a comment.
Yes.
Yeah, I appreciate the presentation. I thought it was put together extremely well. I like Kevin's realistic comments, getting down to specifics. I can tell he's got a lot of experience. So I appreciate it, and just kind of taking it in. I know there's quite a few meetings I haven't been a part of, but I'm just going to kind of take it in and think about it. So thanks very much.
We got a minute left till they wrap it up. Tony, Kurt,
I'll do some.
Andrea?
Yeah, no, I was kind of say thank you for being with us. What I liked was how you had some old buildings with some new buildings, like the YMCA in Ohio was great. So you have different kinds of experience. And I love the fact that you're a Michigan-based company. And thank you again for being here.
Thank you. Oh, yes. Kurt, go.
Yeah, just real quick. I was intrigued by the Places people. I think they can bring so much to this whole project that I didn't even envision until she began to speak. So other than that, the whole rest of the presentation is awesome. It was great. And thank you all for being here.
Okay, John, turn it back over to you. You got maximum 5 minutes, actually 4.5.
I don't need it.
Is it okay if Mike Roman says one more thing?
Yeah, I didn't say, oh, did Mike,
Mike raised his hand. I just want to make sure he gets.
Okay.
Oh, yeah, just kind of curious. I kind of look at this whole project as a partnership. We're going to hopefully get a township hall out of this, and you as a developer are going to make a whole bunch of money. I'm just curious if some of the profit that you plan on making, does any of that typically come back to the municipality in the form of utilities, help paying for the roads, help paying for the sidewalks, even helping pay for our new town hall that we're dreaming about?
So that's a great question, Mike. First of all, with the risk that's taken and the exposure that we do on our balance sheet, you'd be surprised how little we make in fees. It's a lot for a little. We look to do other development in addition to it. So we make fees enough to justify our time, but not our exposure. It's really the multifamily and other things that we want to own long-term that help us. And obviously there will be TIF from that will help you. There'll be TIF from that will help with infrastructure projects and everything else. This will definitely be a win-win. By the time you're done at the end of this thing, you'll see all the municipal stuff we were able to conjure up and help you with. and then all the tax paying stuff that we do. And I can honestly say it's a true partnership. There's no free ride. John said it. I like the baseball acronyms that he uses, because I always tell people if we both hit a stand-up double, we might be able to stretch them into triples. But if one person tries to hit a grand slam home run, the other side's not going to do well. And so I always look for two doubles. Let's be transparent, put our cards on the table, and try to make this work. But you'd be surprised at the profits. It's really the long-term hold for us. That's why both my sons work for me, because they're going to do better than their dad.
John, you should take it away for a couple minutes. That's all.
I have one quick question. I won't be long. So if we might have to come to the option of picking and choosing. And if we did not have residential on this project, would you still be interested?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
So thank you all. It's been, it's obviously a little bit different for all of us to be on this type of platform to meet each other. But I've had a lot of fun getting to know your community so far. All of us really hope to continue that. I'm very excited and eager to get going. As to Mike's last comment, we're in this for a partnership. We're in this to be transparent and solve issues and provide a sense of place. We have initial start to a team. That's just the beginning. And we hope to just continue with this process and turn it into a long-term arrangement that everybody is not only happy with, but they're proud of. And they're proud to call it home, and they're proud of the decisions that they've made to get us here. So in that, I just want to thank everyone for your time this evening. I look forward to hopefully hearing from you again, and hopefully that's soon. So thank you so much.
Okay, with that, I will end our part of this, because I guess you have to close the meeting out, Rick.
Yes, thank you.
And yeah, you'll hear from us, John, I would say in probably a week's time.
8 weeks or 8?
1 weeks.
I would like to thank everyone tonight, all the members of the Township Board and the Civic Center Development Committee, as well as our presenters tonight for being here and attending. Very well done. Certainly piqued my interest in a couple different things. There's certain architecture there that right up my pipe there that I think is something that we would be interested in as a community. So it'd be interesting to see what comes to fruition as time goes by. With that being said, I'd like to thank all of you for being here. It is 7:28. We didn't run over. I appreciate your handling of things, Howard, as usual. So for this, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn. Oh, sorry, Andrea, support.
I heard.
Andrea, motion, I'll support.
Yep.
Okay, fair enough. Andrea made the motion, supported by trustee Liz Smith. Roll call vote, please. You're muted, Anthony.
Supervisor Kowal,
Yes.
Clerk Noble, yes. Treasurer Roman,
Yes.
Trustee Ruggles,
Yes.
Trustee Voorhees,
Yes.
Trustee Smith,
Yes.
Trustee Powell.
Yes.
Motion carries. Good night, everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure
everybody.
to meet you.